Hello, hello. This is Irene Lyakovetsky. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is an apps event. We're going to talk about data analytics and FinOps from CTO perspective. So please gather, please share these links with your peers, with your colleagues at the moment, because I don't want this session to go to waste because these are fabulous, fabulous guests over here with me. And again, we're going to start shortly, but please take this second. We'll wait for you. No, we won't. We'll wait for you. So please share these links because we do need that exposure. The wisdom in this room, in this virtual room, is amazing. Is amazing. You're about to discover things that you probably won't hear anywhere. How about that? Hello, Joe. Hello, James. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing well, Irene. How about you, ma'am?
I'm doing fabulously well in a company of such technical wealth of knowledge. James, how are you?
I'm doing great. I've got my coffee here, so
There you go.
my day is getting better as I go.
Beautiful, beautiful. So please, in the audience out there, please follow NApps right now just to get it out of the way. How about that? You're on LinkedIn already. So get that momentum going in a way that there are fabulous posts out there, resources, demos, some previous sessions that I was privileged to host. Anyways, let's jump to it. So we're going to talk about data analytics. And Joe Perez is international speaker. He is an IT certified specialist. He's a CTO, and the reason Joe is our speaker today is because all his life, how about that, is about bringing data to life and life to data. Joe, tell us something about data today, please.
Sure. You're so kind, Irene. Thank you for the most kind and gracious introduction. I'm just honored and tickled to death to be here with an amazing guy like James Wilson and you, Irene. What can I say? You know, you're just simply the best. But anyway, insofar as bringing data to life is concerned, okay. Irene, those who know me know that I use that phrase as my tagline in my profile, bringing data to life and life to data. Okay, to me, this is essential for a new approach for a more effective cloud strategy. Okay, seeing data as a commodity for one thing, ensuring that you use it to drive your business decisions. You have data governance, data quality, and other data management practices in place. Data can and should be used to drive decisions as long as it's good, reliable data that's presented in a consistent, logical, and visually compelling manner. All right. And it's a manner that doesn't try to tell a story that's not there, that's done with full disclosure and transparency, and that follows some sort of best practice model that you've already established ahead of time and that you've come to rely upon. We might talk a little more about that later, but anyway, we need to get to the point where we can embrace the value of these documented practices. The value of standardization, the value of input from your sysop team, your DevOps team, your FinOps team, everybody. Yeah, right. For the sake of your cloud cost optimization or your overall cost allocation and for accurate forecasting abilities. All those things are important. But I think we need to start building awareness of the purpose for each of these teams. Now, the developing relationships before making requests, that's important. And above all, ask questions. Seek to gain valuable input from these diverse, valuable groups. Now, once you've done that, the question remains, can data be gathered, prepared, and presented in the way that I just described without having at least some sort of this data governance, data quality, data management properties and practices already in places? Yeah, I believe not. But can they be practicing good uh, principles of data quality and all this that we talked about without necessarily having them formalized and written down into a properly documented body of knowledge? Possibly so. To those organizations that are in that first group, I say, good for you, buddy. Keep it up. And those organizations that are in that second group, even if you might be surviving to some extent, I say, look, listen, If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So write it down, for heaven's sake. And for those organizations that are in neither group, well, to you I say, wake up and get with the program before you get your backside handed to you. Okay. So once my data management practices are settled, I need to ask myself, how do I convince my organization's leadership that when data contradicts the status quo, that can actually be a good thing? Great question. Well, let me lay some groundwork here. See, the status quo is a perception that all things are going to stay the way they are, right? Okay. And when it comes to DevOps, if management believes that things are going well, then that status quo perception can lull them into complacency. All right. They're stuck in a rut in which they keep doing things the way they've always done them. They might lose touch with reality. They might shut down new ideas that they might just perceive as being threatening. But you know what? The numbers don't lie, right? Data tends to either challenge the status quo or contradict the status quo. And the only way that we can get management to to wake up and smell the roses is to show them that changing their strategy is indeed in their own best interest. When they see that productivity is decreasing, they're not getting an appropriate ROI from the latest cloud migration project or something, or that the predictions and proposals from the financial ops people are not accurate or timely, or maybe overall revenue or profit, or however in the world you measure it, is going down rather than up. That's the important thing, right? They realize that continuing along the same path they're going is going to lead to disaster. And it is shown to them in a transparent, unambiguous, visually compelling, neutral, and totally accurate manner. Well, then, hey, the savvy manager, the savvy leader is going to see the logic and the wisdom in deriving actionable insight from something that's in their own best interest anyway, and that of their company. And once they've earned their trust, well, that's 90% of the battle right there. One final thought. Writer and physician Arthur Conan Doyle once said, "It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts," right? So if you do that, one of the things that seemed to be missing in the philosophy of modern FinOps thinking is this notion that having the required professional development levels among the staff, along with the required policies in effect, is all you need to facilitate successful software deployments or system implementations, right? That's just theory, right? Theory that, I don't know, they might have learned it in school or something. But let me tell you something. Real life is rarely limited to theory. It deals in facts. And the facts are that you cannot bring data to life without a commitment to conform your theories to the facts rather than the facts to your theories. And Irene, is your commitment evident in your approach? Does it affect the way you interact with the keepers of data, the reporters, the viewers, the deciders, the builders, the counters, the summarizers, and so on? Do you have that, right? Who's going to thrive here? We talking about people who are great logical thinkers or those who are flamboyant and creative? We referring to, I don't know, people who are driven by left brain logic or by right brain ideas, right? There seems to be a dichotomy in this realm among those who would have us to believe that it's an either or situation, right? Advocating the mindset that you either got to be a left brain thinker or a right brain thinker, right? Those with left brain dominance are going to be more analytical, objective, and methodical, while those with right brain dominance, well, they're just going to be more creative, subjective, and intuitive, and with their heads in the clouds, right? Regardless of which side of the brain has more dominance in your own personality, the key to improving upon our thinking skills and making it in this world is to recognize the extent to which the two halves work together. Okay, recent medical research in neuroscience has shown that abilities in these realms are strongest when both halves of the brain are working together. Therefore, you need both your reasoning and your imagination, both logic and intuition, both order and chaos, if we're to make sense of everything that we need to accomplish in a day when it comes to bringing data to life. So, in our fervency, the logic from the left informs and directs the passion on the right. The expression on the right gives clarity to the language on the left. The creativity on the right colors the science on the, you cannot just stick yourself into one box or bucket or the other. Both halves work together. So whether you think of yourself as a numbers person or not, understanding data, here's the whole point. Having a passion for it is all about attitude and a drive for knowing more. Paul Davies, consumer marketing director at Microsoft, said it this way: the magic happens when left brain logic meets right brain ideas, and that's where the sparks can truly fly. And with that said,
Beautiful, Joe.
Irene,
Yeah.
that's when you'll be able to reconcile your theories to your facts and keep moving forward and bring data to life.
Nicely said, Joe. Absolutely. Picking up on few point, James, okay, when company revisiting their cloud strategy, we know it's evolving from 10 years ago, from 5 years ago, from 3 years ago, all right? Talk to us about cloud optimization. We're going to talk about cost, but please, gathering cloud data, this is a new, completely new perspective in business, don't you think?
It is really interesting, Irene. From my own experience in building, large multi-cloud SaaS systems, I know in the early days of the cloud, we were promised a new consumption model. We were promised quick access and flexibility in tool sets and the ability to reproduce our deployments. And what we learned, or what I learned along the way, was that one side of that promise was very easy to realize, and that was the ability for us to move quick, to build great things, to build great stability and reliability and security and performance. The one thing that we really missed in that equation, which is maybe the greatest promise of the cloud, is the elasticity. We oftentimes say at FinOps that one of our goals is to put the elastic back in EC2, right? Um, and so as teams have built out these very robust, very dynamic, very revolutionary new technologies that we're seeing increase at scale, one of the hardest things to get a handle on is what the data tells us about how we should build, how we should optimize, and how we should introduce a feedback loop into our development pipelines. There's a very different approach to optimizing your cloud environment for cost, because what we're often thinking about is delivering something to the customer that provides delight, right? And so we think about the design and the data that tells us that the features that we build on a daily basis are making an impact to our customers. At the same time, talking about how much does it cost to deliver all of that innovation is not very sexy, right? And we have many masters to serve in our organization. FinOps is a growing practice that companies are adopting, because they're learning that there is an alignment between the development, the security, the reliability, and all the other pillars of building out well architected systems, and that FinOps is in itself optimization, right? And so we have to look at the personas that are actually consuming the signals that cloud optimization, and especially fin optimization data, are telling us, and those are different personas. They're the procurement department in your organization, they're the finance team, and one of the biggest disparities is for a DevOps team or an engineering team to try to explain cloud consumption models that are based and founded in how fast does it run, how fast does it deploy into financial accountability for the justifying the return on investment that organizations are putting into into the services that we're delivering that drive value for customers. One thing that I know is that when I joined FinOps, I thought I was joining a cloud management organization, and I was going to be leaning into giving users actionable windows into what is going on in their cloud environment. And I quickly learned that what we're actually building is a data and automation platform, right? And so everything is about delivering the financial and optimization data around your cloud environment to the people that are actually going to consume it. And that the quality, to Joe's point, Joe, I mean, I think we could have many great conversations about the diversity and scale of data that needs to be ingested, transformed, analyzed, and processed and presented to users that goes into cloud optimization. But it's tremendous. And we have to challenge, I think, the questions that we're really trying to answer, right? At the end of the day, a chart that shows me how well my resources are consuming or bin packing. Let's take deploying things to shared resources. How to explain that to the finance team is a very tricky equation. And so that's where tooling comes in, that's built by people who actually spend their lives and their time becoming subject matter experts in the different tools that we have in optimizing cloud environments. There's two levers that you can pull. One is to learn how to pay less for what you're consuming, and the other one is maybe even trickier: how to consume less. And so at FinOps, our first mission is to actually become an expert in how to pay less, because that's something that no engineer is going to have the time or wherewithal to learn all of the complexities of AWS savings plans and reserved instances and the best practices in optimizing reserved instances across your organization, because no one has the time to do that and still do their day jobs. You have to learn to turn to trusted tools and trusted sources that can present you with the actual picture of what's going on to your environment. But at FinOps, nothing is worth presenting unless we give you the ability to act on it. And that's another thing that I've learned about data along the way, is that passive insights and looking in the rearview mirror about what happened does not really paint a rosy picture for what do we do to respond to that data. And so asking questions instead of what happened with our cloud bill, and asking a question that's more like, how do engineers react to this in terms of tooling and integration and process in your engineering workflow, integrating it into your Git, into your source control, integrating into your data management practices, integrating into your Scrum and your monitoring tools, and things like that are the really more useful questions to answer than just telling you what you did wrong, which is oftentimes what I see a lot of analytics and insights tool doing. So
this brings us to excellent point, James. Yeah, so going to data-driven decisions here, Joey, all the tooling, all the resources James described, all the mind shifts that's happening, all right? How do you see that's changing? Because again, new tools coming to the play every morning, every day, every night, and we know that, people get lost in some of the, and overwhelmed by all the data
Mhm.
sources. So what's the best way to kind of organize ourselves around data decisioning here?
Sure, that's an excellent question, Irene. You know, um, with regards to moving from being in data denial to being data driven, for instance, and whether you're relying upon instincts on the one hand or upon solid actionable data on the other, I think some organizations are like that, right? They're either going to one extreme or the other. Maybe they don't have enough data being collected about their products or services, that they feel that there's insufficient data upon which to draw any meaningful conclusions, as James described. They have no choice but to rely upon their experience, their intuition, their gut, if you will. And in those cases, well, it's not a matter of ignoring the data. They just don't have any. At least they don't think they do. Even then, okay, if they know their business, their clients, their products, their environment, their competition, their seasonal cycles, if any, their supply lines, distribution networks, their employee makeup, and so on, they can then use their experience with each of those components to drive their decisions. Now, people who do that, well, they claim, well, I'm not using data. Well, you know what? Guess what all those components are that I just described, right? They're all data, whether they recognize it that way or not, or whether it's in the conventional sense of the word, like spreadsheets, databases, web-based business intelligence reports, bar charts, the conventional way in which we would think of as data. But they are still recorded information of some type from which decision makers are going to draw insight. I call that data. All right, a different scenario, flip it on its side. Another business, maybe they have gobs of data and they've had bad experience with either flawed data collection methods or flawed reporting methods. So they might get to the point where they don't trust the data. I mean, after all, how can you believe something you don't trust, right? So they may be driven to ignore the data and rely upon their intuition instead until those issues can be resolved, right? Wrong data leads to wrong decisions, and those wrong decisions can lead to disastrous consequences. And once you've had an experience like that, well, hey, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and you're going to think twice before you go down that route again. Now, of course, rather than giving up on the data altogether, that's not a way to go. To me, the right approach is to find the problem, address the concern, fix the defect, and implement reliable, accurate, and consistent practices that are going to win back the trust of those decision makers. Okay, think about the grid or filter through which we process decisions, right? Some of us have good instincts and sound intuition that gets developed and honed and improved with experience. So, while going with your gut might seem like the right way to go, hey, let's not forget something. Your gut, right? Your instinct, your intuition needs to be informed in order to be reliable. And the best way to do that is with actionable data. To me, that begs the question, once I have this settled, should I take more of a strategic approach or a tactical approach as I move towards being data driven? Okay, those who are focusing on the long term goals, the big picture, like James talked about, they tend to look at ways that data will drive their strategic decisions. While those who are interested in simply how to get from point A to point B on the data, day-to-day basis, well, they're going to focus on ways that data can drive their operational decisions. We can also refer to those as tactical decisions. Okay, Irene, I think it's easy to see how looking at overarching long-term trends in an organization's data can inform strategic decisions for high-level planning. Nothing wrong with that. You see the general direction of where your lines of business are going. So you plan your strategy and you try to get all those chess pieces in the right places to make it happen for your long-term goals and your bigger objectives, right? That's the strategic approach. Now, at the same time, even at the executive level. I believe that there's a danger of overemphasizing that high level strategic look. Like James said, past performance is no indication of future results. You didn't say it that way, but it leads you to lose sight of all the pieces, parts, and steps that you need to have in place day by day to get to that point, right? That's the operational or the tactical. See, that's what helps break down those long term goals into smaller, more immediate ones that you need to strive for incrementally to get to those high level ones. More granular data about these ongoing operations can inform those tactical decisions. So, yeah, I'm convinced that you need both. That is, to have a balanced perspective for both the long term and the short term. Ancient Chinese general and military strategist and philosopher Sun Tzu once wrote this: strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And you know what, Irene? After more than 25 centuries, that is still great advice today. You know what? That's how I would say is keep those things in balance. That's how you can drive decisions with data, not just rely on your gut, but let your gut be informed by good, solid, actionable data.
Well said, Joe. Absolutely. James, could you bring us back to the reality, meaning that, cloud data, how does it help us to inform, optimize, and automate? Speaking of principles Joe just mentioned.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more, Joe. One of the biggest challenges that I like to talk about in engineering leadership is the balance between tactical and strategic decisions, and we have to make them all day, every day.
Yes.
We have to serve the executive vision, right? But at the same time, we have to make decisions that inform our product delivery deadlines. We have to make decisions that are practical, that are going to serve our quarterly financial goals. And so sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get results quickly, right? It may be that you're being asked to re-architect an entire cloud platform, and it's just not feasible to meet your financial goals within the quarter. So you have to make some very hard technical decisions that are maybe not always the best. And if you're gonna uh, be in denial about the fact that everything is about a goal, security is about a goal. It's about it's about keeping your vision on constantly improving. Nothing is perfectly secure, right? Nothing is perfectly cost optimized. So bringing it back down to how do I streamline, how do I act on it, and then how do I use automation to serve all of the different personas in my organization. I think first of all, a lot of it is about collecting the right data, right? Because that's a daunting task. And for optimization, you have to look at resource utilization. You have to look at resource metadata. You have to look at the events that are happening in your cloud environment. Sometimes you have to introspect and look at application level data. And most importantly, you have to look at the billing data, which is huge. It's complex. AWS bills don't come in several pages. They come in several gigabytes with billions and billions of entries, and that's a daunting task to even know how to react to those kind of signals. So at NOps, the first thing that we do is make it very easy to collect the right data, right? And then the next part is about standardizing around the processes in your organization. NOps, we are members of the FinOps Foundation. We're very active in the FinOps Foundation, and we like to build around a framework, right? We want to be part of the community that is bringing the thought leadership and the best practices to the masses through an open community instead of doing something that is very closed. And Irene knows it well now. Our first goal is to inform in order to challenge the status quo, as you mentioned, which is what we use data for. You have to get visibility in terms of all of the stakeholders. We have a showbacks functionality, which is often a better tooling for a finance team to be able to slice and dice massive amounts of data using all of the signals like tags and operation types and the way that the resources are utilized to slice and dice it in a way that the cloud spend can be amortized and to actually extract the goals of finance teams. At the same time, you have to inform engineers in a very different way. What tools do I integrate with? What configurations need to be changed? What integrations can I use that are off the shelf, like our integration with AWS Event Bridge? A very easy way to integrate with all the tools that you're using in your cloud environment to do things like dynamic reconfiguration of auto scaling groups. Oftentimes it's the old thinking. I've configured this thing in a way that I would have done in a data center, or I've sized it in a way that I know is reliable and it works out there. But until I see the data and realize that the nodes in my auto scaling groups follow very specific patterns throughout the day, and that maybe just because it's a production environment doesn't mean that I can't change the way that I think about how do I scale in my environment, right? And so it's presenting that way, and we always like to say, show your work, right? We can come to you with a recommendation, but as an engineer, no engineer is going to give up control of their production environment without having proof that is consumable in a way that they can understand the way that their environment performs by looking at it a way that they have never looked at it before. What a specific example is how do we classify activity in public cloud resources? And conventional wisdom would say, well, I look at a box and I say, how much memory does it use? How pegged out is the CPU? How much I/O is going on? In actuality, we've come to some advancements that tell us a better way to look at that is actually in the variation in CPU. It resolves down to how diverse is the activity on a computer, because there is no use in memory consumption. There is no use in I/O if the data isn't being processed. So sizing is a very different thing than identifying what true definition of activity is on a resource, and that's a very hard thing to do, because no monitor is going to make that quite evident. And so presenting the foundational data that an engineer can look at and have that light bulb moment and say, yes, I agree with this, and now I can act on it because I've got the right integrations, and then being able to telegraph that the reason why we need to make this decision is going to meet the demands of my procurement team, my executive, my finance team. It is really what brings it all together, and so that's what our mission is really all about.
Gentlemen, what a fantastic conversation today. I am almost sorry to inform that time is flying. Okay, it's kind of out of my control. I would love to stay longer. Incredible insights here, Joey. To leave our audience with few takeaways, okay? Let's make it brief and respect everyone's time. So please, yeah, let's go over. You mentioned bringing data to life to data. What does it mean for people to kind of to remember and act right on the data they receive?
Sure. Well, thank you again. James, that was brilliant, by the way. In a 2021 study of more than 1,000 business executives, IBM data scientists found that bad data costs those companies represented in the study an average of $15 million a day. They also found that 73% of those business executives are unhappy with their data quality, and 61% of the organizations surveyed are unable to harness data to create a sustained competitive advantage. Now, to that point, on September 23rd, 1999, NASA's Mars Climate Orbiter began its orbit in the insertion burn that was supposed to start its final descent to the Martian surface. Hundreds of engineers and observers sat transfixed in front of their computer monitors with their mouths open, waiting for the orbiter to come around the backside of Mars and signal a successful landing. Yes, they kept waiting and waiting. They're so excited, but no signal ever came. No signal ever would come. Why? Well, because the Mars Climate Orbiter had burned to a crisp in the thin Martian atmosphere. What happened? Well, an investigation later found that the mission failed due to a navigational error. And the navigational error was because the commands to the orbiter from Earth were being sent in English units while the orbiter was expecting to get them in metric units. Nobody thought to make sure that everybody was on the same page before they launched something that would have taken them less than 20 minutes to resolve. As a result, bad data caused the loss of a $125 million spacecraft, and it set Martian climate study back more than 3 years. Hey, even the discovery of the Americas was a result of bad data. Christopher Columbus made a huge, significant miscalculation when charting the distance between Europe and Asia. Okay, he favored the values that were given by Persian geographer Alfraganus, whatever his name was, over the more accurate calculations of Greek geographer Aristophanes. The second thing he did, he assumed, Columbus did, that Alfraganus was referring to Roman miles in his calculations, when in reality, he was referring to Arabic miles. So, what's the point? Okay, look, in both of these instances, Irene and James, we see people blindly following data, whether it was good or bad, and in both cases it was bad, just because it's there. Okay. So you might ask, should I go with the data or should I go with my instincts when it comes to managing my cloud FinOps strategy, when it comes to data governance and all these other things that we've been talking about today? Well, you know what? It goes both ways. Refusing to pay attention to bad data and going with your gut is just as important as listening to the sound reasoning behind good data and letting it inform your gut instead and drive those decisions. Okay. You may not be credited with saving the Mars orbiter or helping somebody discover a new continent on the other side of the globe or find a shortcut to Asia or whatever. But I tell you what, you will certainly make some headway in tackling challenges, creating value, making the right kinds of decisions with data, and most of all, bringing the whole thing to life.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, James. You take away, please, from you. Yeah, yes, we heard about
Sure.
data-driven decisions and, of course, making the right cloud decisions as well. Yep.
Right. So, I think that the biggest takeaway for me is that you absolutely need to listen to Joe's advice. Number one, you have to both trust and challenge your
Yes.
sources of data, and you have to look for tools that can help you to do both of those things simultaneously. You have to use your experience and your guts, right? Because we, as engineering professionals, we've been burned many times. We've been up all night on production emergencies and making sure that the systems that people use every day are available and that they're performing correctly and that they're delivering the right value and the right answers. And so, what we do at FinOps is to try to deliver both of those in within a framework that's easy to follow, easy to understand, and easy to act upon. It's not just visibility, it's a toolkit. And well, one of the things that we do very differently is that we have adopted a philosophy at FinOps that we don't charge you unless we actually save you money. It's not about telling you what we think you ought to do or what you think you need to work on. It's about giving you the entire package, and so there is no risk for trying it out. And one thing that we can do is help you in the short term. Tactically, we can put you on automation programs that will make you pay less immediately. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We do not have people leave that program because there's absolutely no reason to leave that program. And once you make that tactical gain, hey, I found an automation tool that allows me to cut my cloud expense immediately. Then we start guiding you on the journey of discovery of how to act on realizing the true promise of the cloud, which is to move to a true consumption model. And so we'll give you the tools to do that with zero risk. I mean, we work very hard at this stuff, and I hope everybody is able to exact the value of this laser focus.
In conclusion, I want to encourage everyone to get started. If you haven't already, FinOps on FinOps, there's a link here running through this session, how to get started. Please contact James, please contact FinOps team on FinOps, and follow FinOps on LinkedIn. I'm a huge fan now. You'll find wealth of information. Joe, help us to spread this word around with your amazing presence around the world. Gentlemen, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.